Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. If you haven't finished your holiday shopping yet, don't panic. We've got a secret source for incredible original gifts, and that's Uncommon Goods. They've got unique handpicked gifts for everyone on your list all in one spot. I'm currently scouring the site for an upcoming white elephant party. They have so many truly original items such as customizable ornaments, a pickleball paddle snack tray, and hand-painted floral flat candles. Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, and not the same old selections you could find just anywhere. And even better, with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they'll give $1 back to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3 million to date. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/dateable. That's uncommongoods.com/dateable for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary.
You know what I don't miss at all? That horrendous week right before my period when I feel like crawling out of my skin, and my skin is full of zits, mind you. Yes, PMS hits me hard, but now it's easier to manage with Estro Control by Happy Mammoth. Estro Control contains science-backed herbal extracts that help support hormonal health, especially during PMS. The way it does this is super interesting. The ingredients help support the liver, where our hormones are processed, and oftentimes PMS symptoms are caused by hormonal fluctuations. Estro Control is also made specifically for women who are premenopausal, a time when, PMS can turn into a beast. I know this firsthand. So for a limited time, you can get 15% off on your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use the code DATEABLE at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use the code DATEABLE for 15% off today. Hi, I'm Yue Xu.
And I'm Julie Kraftchick.
We're active daters turned dating insiders.
Here to dive into everything modern dating and relationships.
Welcome to Dateable. Hello, friends. Welcome to Brunch Talk with your hosts of the Dateable podcast, where we address your burning dating questions, whatever they may be.
And they never stop coming in. There's always another burning dating question.
We'd be out of business if they ever stopped coming in.
I don't think they'll ever stop.
Keep having those conundrums.
I mean,
they really fuel us.
Honestly, if we never had a dating question to answer, I would be like, this is amazing. We will stop doing Brunch Talk.
We did our work. Yeah.
But it doesn't seem to be happening anytime soon.
Nope, doesn't happen. But we will still address all the questions. So that's what we're here for. And the question for this episode is, why did my relationship end so abruptly?
Some more context. I was in a relationship with a guy and we dated for 5 months before it ended. Soon after we met, he told me he liked me. 2 months later, said he loved me and asked me to be his girlfriend. I had some reservations, but a month later, we were official. Everything seemed to be going well, spending 3 to 4 nights a week together, meeting friends, going on trips, and even talking about long-term plans. Another month in, I suggested we do a relationship check-in to see where we were at. I was vulnerable and said I really enjoyed his company and wanted to do this long-term, and he said he felt the same way. He'd even said, I quote, I'd marry you tomorrow if I could, babe.
Whoa.
All this made me feel reassured. A few days went by as normal, and then he called and said it wasn't working for him anymore, and the spark was gone. I was really confused as it felt so abrupt. After we had this check-in, what do you think happened?
Ooh, I'm so sorry that you went through this. I can totally understand the disappointment you must feel in this moment to feel so blindsided. This exact same thing happened to my friend last year, and she was devastated. So I don't want to minimize any feelings you may be having. I think ultimately, like if we were to a year from now, you're going to look back and be like, I dodged a bullet. That person was not right for me. It's hard to get to that place right now. So the first thing I'll say is asking the why of why it ended so abruptly doesn't actually get you anywhere, because we're not this guy. We're not talking to this guy. It actually doesn't matter. It's his truth that he felt like there was no more future with you. in this relationship. And then I think that's step number one, is to say, all right, that's the reality of where this went.
So I'm curious, Yue, from your story that you just shared, did your friend ever get any closure with him? Like, did she ever ask more and the person was actually honest? Or do you feel like it's just not even worth going there with someone?
See, I feel like when we ask for closure, we end up getting the answers that we don't want. So she did ask for explanation and clarity, and he explained himself actually a few times, because she's like, I just want to understand.
Yeah.
Yesterday we were fine, and today you no longer want to continue. And he explained, and she still couldn't rationalize what he was explaining to her. I
Mm.
felt like it wasn't productive for her to even hear the answer, but it ended up just being her trying to be defensive. Like she was like, oh, but I thought, or you said this, or I thought we were, and he's like, but the truth is, I don't feel these things anymore.
A reason I asked is because I also had a friend recently where this happened to and did the same thing, trying to get closure. Because ultimately, this listener asked, what do you think happened? Yue and I could hypothesize all day long,
Oh, yeah.
but we don't know because
Yeah.
we're not him. And going to the source with this, that's why I was curious what your take was.
Yeah.
The one thing that does stand out to me from all of this is just how quickly things did move. And that's not to say that, like, when things move quickly, it's a sure thing it's not going to work out. But, like, 2 months later, he said he loved you. That's infatuation, right? Like, how well do you really know someone, especially if you're not spending that much time together 2 months later? So my gut on this is that, like, he got ahead of himself. We don't know why he got ahead of himself. Was it just his definition of love and relationships and how they operated? And then when things got real, that's when the spark was gone, because we've seen that before, is when you're kind of living in this like fantasy of what love and relationships are, the feel good vibes. Like once you get in it and it becomes either a little mundane or,
Mm-hmm.
there's any sign of conflict, that's when the spark goes away. Again, we don't know what happened with you two, but I think that is a real thing that happens, is that once it's like lifted, or once people feel like, oh, I got what I wanted, like results oriented, like for you to be all in, then it's not as exciting to them anymore. And honestly, that says more about them than it does actually about you.
Yes. And that was my hypothesis about my friend's situation, is that he was chasing the milestones. The milestones felt really good.
Yep.
First time, they talked about their feelings for each other. When they met each other's families, those are all dopamine hits. And when all of those milestones were checked off, I think he had a sudden moment of like, oh, this is it. There's no other thing for me to look forward to. And I agree with you, Julie. I think that says more about him not able to grow from that. Like, to think a relationship is these constant highs is very unrealistic. And you want to be with someone who's in it for the long game. In our listeners' situation, I kind of feel the same way. It's like the fireworks stopped and all the milestones were checked, and that was a really fun ride, but the roller coaster came to a halt. Now you're safe. Now it's time to go home, eat some popcorn, watch a movie. And he's like, but I want to get back on the roller coaster, and I don't feel that with you anymore.
Yeah, I think of our episode that we did with Ryan Van Duzer, our long-term relationships for everyone.
Same.
'Cause that is exactly what happened. I mean, I think his spanned a little longer than this, but ultimately he's someone that's like very adrenaline driven, and you can argue all the time, maybe it's just not the right person. And for him, we don't know your partner also, like maybe you guys weren't the right fit and he saw that.
We don't know.
I want to get into this a little more of like, okay, now that we've unpacked this, now what? Because clearly you're still heartbroken. This is still very difficult. But before we do, let's hear a message from our sponsors. Want to add some holiday cheer into the bedroom? Spice up your life using the natural power of cannabis with Via. We're obsessed with their best-selling High Love Gummy that really intensifies any sexual experience. With its unique blend of pleasure-enhancing cannabinoids, libido-strengthening herbs, and a medium dose of THC, Via's really created one mind-blowing gummy. You can even get their High Love bundle either as an early present for yourself or a loved one. I personally like their TH-free gummy gummies too. Their flow state is my fave because you guessed it, it puts me into that right focus. So whatever your threshold, they have you covered with the highest quality hemp sourced from trusted, independent owned American farms. If you're 21 plus, head to viiahemp.com and use the code DATEABLE to receive 15% off. That's VIIA hemp.com and use the code DATEABLE at checkout. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Take your passion and pleasure to a whole new level with high love from Via Hemp. The holiday season is right around the corner, and I know the perfect gift that I will most definitely be giving this year. Osea's limited edition Super Glow Body Set. It includes 3 of Osea's best-selling body care products at an incredible value, packed in a box so beautiful you can skip the wrapping paper. This is gifting made easy. We've said it before on the podcast, but both Yue and I are obsessed with their new Undaria algae body wash, which is part of the set. But all of the products in the set, the body wash, body oil, and body serum, feel like you're taking a luxurious trip to the spa. They just leave your skin feeling silky soft and unbelievably glowing. So maybe while you're at it too, you'll want to grab one for yourself. But hurry before this limited edition sells out. Give the gift of glow this holiday season with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now we have a special discount for our listeners. Get 10% off your first order site-wide with the code DATEABLEPODCAST at OseaMalibu.com. I think the first thing I want to say, though, is I still commend you for doing your relationship check-in.
Yes.
And we summarized it. This person did say it was their first time doing this, the first one with their partner. I don't want the takeaway here to be like, once I did that, it was too much. And that's why they went away.
Right.
I think if anything, it brings the stuff to the surface quicker. And ultimately, if someone was going to be turned off, the second things became more like a standard relationship that's not always all the fireworks. Wouldn't you rather know that earlier? You also don't want to be afraid to have conversations with someone in fear that the second things aren't just like all sunshine and rainbows and butterflies, they run for the hills.
Definitely. For my friend, this conversation actually happened during a relationship check-in. So imagine that. At least this one happened a little bit after the check-in. But that's a really great takeaway is the check-in is not what scares someone away. It's what actually expedites what is brewing underneath. So that's good to bring that to light. The other step that I would say is to really take care of yourself during this time. I think we can get into this rumination trap of like, why, and should I do this? I shouldn't have said this. Stop that and say, I did everything I could.
Yeah.
I did the best I could and I showed up the best way I could. So my only role right now is to take care of myself, not to try to understand or dissect this relationship anymore. Now, I know what the next question would be. How do I prevent this from happening in the future? Right?
Yes.
There is no way you can prevent this from happening. There's just no way. But even in the way you phrase the question to us, I didn't hear much about how you felt about this guy. It was a lot of him bringing the feelings out, said, I love you and this and that. Maybe when you're doing a relationship check in with yourself first. How do I feel about this relationship?
We do always have to shorten these because sometimes people send novels. We still love when you send the novel, but just for time here.
Yeah.
So I do want to actually point out one thing that was cut that might be interesting. I did summarize it a little, but it sounded like there were a few reservations at the beginning from this person.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually they got on board, and that's when they shared that things were going well and all that. And they also even said there were a few things that were like slightly off, but they just kind of took that as the start of a relationship. We'll work through it. We'll figure it out.
Yes.
So maybe it is reflecting back on like, what was it that made you feel like this? And then also like, how do you own the speed of something? It sounds like you were doing a little catch up to get to where they were. And then they pulled the rug once you were caught up, which it's happened to me before too. It is the worst when that happens because you're like, wait, I was the one that was like hesitant a little. But then you have to be like, why was I hesitant? What was it that was making me feel that way?
It does feel like whoever reveals their feelings first ends up driving the relationship. because they're like, I love you, your turn. Let's move in, your turn. Meet the family, your turn. Like it helps to balance out that alignment if you can step back and be like, okay, do I actually want to reciprocate? Do I feel like I'm reciprocating just because someone said that? And it felt so good when they said it. And then am I really like on board with all of this?
And I don't blame this person too, because there's so much like conflicting relationship advice, right? It's like, when you know, just go after it, do it. Or love takes time. Like you're like sitting there being like, well, I don't feel it fully, but I know I can get there. Is that a sign that I'm just being realistic and optimistic? Or is it a sign that because I don't feel it,
Right.
that this isn't right? So there's just a lot of conflicting notions happening. So I would say too, how do you drown out some of the noise and like listen to your own intuition? Because I think deep down we usually know.
Yeah.
It's just that we can justify different things. So, especially if you feel like you're in a situation where things are going at rapid speed, how do you take a day to yourself and reflect on what's happening away from this person? And it's not like it needs to be a big thing like I need to be away from you to figure out the relationship. I mean, simply like going to a park with a journal and just jotting down how you're feeling and what's coming up for you. I think getting away from the noise and the advice and you should do this and talking to all your friends about the situation, it's just a lot. And it's hard to like stay true to like, what do I actually feel? And also confident that that is ultimately what matters. I think we can second guess ourselves a lot.
Remember, there's a double subscribe here. It's not just one person's like, yes, subscribe. And you're like, okay, I'm in it. You also got to click that button like, yes, I'm in for this. So before you click that button, it's a good time to, really think about what it is that you're feeling. And like you were saying, Julie, it's like so easy to get wrapped up in this stuff. And it's so easy to feel all the feelings. But there will be so much more clarity with time. You'll see.
Yeah.
There won't be that much clarity by asking questions to him. You're not going to get it. But what I'll offer is what my friend did do was write a letter that basically put all her feelings and disappointments on this letter. She actually read it to him. You can just send it to this person. And just so you get all your thoughts out there, don't expect an answer back. Don't expect any answers at all, but it's maybe a way for you to just clear out some thoughts.
I was also going to say you don't need to send it at all. Like
You don't need
I've
to send
written
it. Yeah, there you
letters
go.
to exes and I don't feel the need to send them. It's a way to get it out. And maybe you can even be more honest if you know that it's not being sent to anyone. I guess like the question I'd have by sending it, like, what is it actually doing at this point?
Right.
Like this person probably knows that you're hurting, and that this wasn't an ideal thing to tell you that they're like ready to marry you and then the next day tell you that they're not. I don't think they're that tone deaf that they don't see how that could be hurtful. It doesn't change though the way they were feeling and that they still did this. I guess the question would be like, what do you get out of sending it? And is that actually going to make you feel better and give you more closure? Or is it better to just be like, okay, this sucked. It was disappointing. How do I process this so I trust again and don't feel like someone's going to do this to me again just because it happened in the past?
Right.
But also be conscious of what I can learn from this. Like, were there red flags or things that I ignored? Or how I was feeling that I ignored. I think the more we can learn and reflect and not ruminate, but do what can propel us forward, that's the ultimate closure you need.
All right, we're going to find some closure in this segment, but thank you for the vulnerability in that question. Really appreciate it. And for all of you out there with your own dating questions, you can email those to us, hello@dateablepodcast.com. You can DM us on Instagram @dateablepodcast. But the fastest way to get your questions answered is to leave us a rating and review in Apple Podcasts or Spotify. 5 stars, please. And in the body of your review, you can write your question there in Apple Podcasts. Or if you're on Spotify, you can just email us the question and let us know that you gave us 5 stars on Spotify.
And remember to pre-order our book right now until it comes out on January 28th. You also get a bunch of resources today because we know that January 28th is still not quite here, although it is quickly approaching. And we want you to be able to, have some of your issues with dating solved, whether that's our modern dating survival kit that we give. And then also we have a guide to dating anxiety, which we know from a poll that I would say most of us are dealing with some sort of dating anxiety.
And the other 10% are lying. Yes.
And then also the questions to ask in the first month of dating someone, especially with the question we got today. Maybe that could have helped, slow things down or made it aware of what someone's values and beliefs about dating and relationships and love were early on, so you could have more information and not feel as blindsided.
All right. Thank you all. We'll see you at the next French Talk.
Bye.